that is just on the other side of my property, okay? And if you'll look at the ditch just a little bit further down, you'll see 2 red reflectors and a guardrail. I put those up. I put them up because several cars have fell in that ditch over the years. If you also notice the overgrowth on the ditch, that's because the county has never, ever, in the 20 years I've been here, ever maintained that ditch. They've come out and dug it out a couple of times, but they've never weed eated, they've never cut down the overgrowth. It's been like that since I owned all this property over 20 years ago. Yet they make me, on the inside, violate me for overgrowth.
And I see you got a fence all along,
Yes.
all along here, along your property, so people can't see what's behind the fence. They can't see your business.
That's mainly why we put that up, was for privacy, so people didn't have to see the roll-offs and the activity going on the inside. There's nothing illegal going on in there. It's just we thought it would be nicer to have a nice wood fence across the front of our property. On the back, you won't see that. We are open to the public. We don't mind anybody coming and inspecting us at any times. We have nothing to hide, okay? We've been this way for 20 years. Anybody that ever wanted to walk up on this property is more than welcome. Until recently, code enforcement has forced my hand. Now, anybody that wants to walk up on my property better bring a warrant.
And how many times have they been out here? Code enforcement
on my property alone, it's a little complicated. They say since 94, but I haven't owned this property since 94. I've only had this property for 5 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They coded my other property that don't even have a building on it, and we passed, I don't even know how many times, probably 7, 8 times over a 15-year period. We ran a recycling center off that piece of property. They had come out and told us we was in violation. The code enforcement officer was Mr. Larson, and we would clean up the lot to his satisfaction. He would pass us, and we continued to work on a vacant lot for over 15 years running a recycling center. In 2005 or 6, I think it was, Mark Harold came out on my vacant piece of property and told us we could no longer work over there. We had to have a building to work out of. So within 6 months of him telling us that, we bought the property next door, which is right here behind me, which has a very large, substantial warehouse on it. And so we immediately opened up a men's thrift store and a recycling center on it, which code enforcement told me I couldn't do. So we went ahead and shut down the men's thrift shop and continued on with the recycling center. They went ahead and passed us. We got all our permits, all our licenses, everything that we needed to run Cocoa Recycling Center. And we did so for over a year without any interference for anybody. Then, just prior to my brother's death, which is November 1st, 2008, I think it was like 2006 or something, Mark Harold came out again and said there was a violation and that we needed to straighten it up, which we did so. We never did get past after that for some reason. There was some miscommunication or something. But whatever it was, my brother started feeling pressured or something. I don't know. He went through a lot, okay? He went through so much that he went to the hospital for a bad heart. All right? He went on medication, and I truly believe to this day the stress on him because of code enforcement was the main reason he died. I don't really know. We do know it was an overdose, an accidental overdose of morphine prescribed to him by a doctor for the pain. He did throw his back out trying to clean the yard up after Mark Harold told him that certain items had to be removed. And at the time we didn't have money for labor, so we was out there doing it ourselves, and he threw his back out. But in 2008, my brother passed away, November 1st. 14 days later, Code Enforcement, along with the Brevard County Sheriff's Department, DEP, and 8 other organizations raided us. They came on our property without warrants, without anything except for the sheriff who led them all into my property and said they're here to do their normal. The sheriff department's allowed to come and inspect my business. Okay, they can do that legally. I didn't have a problem with it, but he led all the other organizations in. They completely went all over my property, along with Channel 9 News, stating that we had stolen property here, we was running a meth lab, we had a prostitution ring running, and we was a bunch of crooks selling drugs. They even stated this on TV. At the end of the day, all they found on this piece of property was no stolen goods, no drugs, no illegal people working here, nothing except 3 minor code violations, which were a awning that we had put up without a permit, an oil spill on the back of the property where my Bobcat had sprung a leak on a hydraulic hose that we hadn't cleaned up yet, and some windows that had been broken during the hurricane that we hadn't fixed yet. That was the only 3 violations they found after an all-day search by 9 different organizations. Now, DEP did also find another person who was renting the other part of the property here. He was melting lead or something, and making fish sinkers, I think it was. The guy admitted to this. He told him it was his, had nothing to do with Cocoa Recycling Center. Yet Code Enforcement blamed that on us too, and had DEP fine us and stuff. Even though since then DEP has dropped all charges and we have been cleared of that. Okay, but that's all they found. But since then, the property, there was a big family fight over who was going to get what, how the responsibility was going to fall because the Code Enforcement had got involved. So for almost a year, nobody knew what was going on. They had started fining us. Our fines had went up to $17,000. Code Enforcement kept coming out here saying this and saying that. One minute they'd say I could do something, one minute they couldn't. After the year or so was over, we finally decided who was going to take over the property, who was going to run it, and so on. Code Enforcement tried to sneak in here and go to a county commission without notifying nobody and put an injunction to permanently shut us down.
So you didn't receive a certified letter?
I did not get a certified letter. I did not get a verbal. I did not get anything. The only reason I ever knew there was an injunction to shut us down was the person who actually runs the cameras at the commission meeting. I think he's either Channel 9 or one of the news reporters. I think he's a news reporter or somebody. He came here the day before the meeting and asked me for comments on the meeting about Code Enforcement shutting us down. And I asked him, what meeting? And that was the only reason I knew about a meeting. I was at that meeting the next morning at 9 o'clock, and I complained very heavily about not being notified. The commission agreed with me and told Code Enforcement to notify me before the next meeting. The next meeting, I still was not notified. I had no letters, no certified letters, nothing. Bowen came out here 1 week before the meeting and told me that there was going to be a meeting and he would let me know when the meeting was going to be convened. Once again, every day we called to see if we was on the agenda. Okay, they say we didn't, but we did. We did not know we was on the agenda until that Monday, which is the day before the meeting. So the second time around, we went back into the commission meeting and complained again. We was not notified. We was not told of this meeting. Once we found out, I'm the only one doing this, by the way. Nobody else, the owner, or nobody else has been notified. Just me, knowing that they're trying to sneak in there and do this. I complained again. Commissioner Fisher made me the official notifier and canceled this meeting again for an injunction and said we would continue it on to the next meeting after we was properly notified. Now this is the second time.